There's something hauntingly beautiful about the way a single sentence can stay with us for days. It could be a phrase spoken in passing, a whisper at midnight, or a soft message sent when the world is quiet. But if it hits the right place in the heart, if it touches something unspoken, it becomes unforgettable. This is the emotional imprint. It's the silent connection formed between two people in a moment that feels almost too real for this world. When a woman speaks to a man with emotional precision, she's not just communicating. She's weaving herself into his subconscious. She's giving him something no one else bothered to, not noise, not validation, not manipulation, but emotional resonance. And the truth is, men don't forget how a woman made them feel when she didn't try too hard, when her words came not from a place of need, but from emotional truth. He could meet 10 other people that day. Some might be louder, some might be funnier, some might even be more flirtatious. But the one he thinks about when he's lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, the one that replays in his mind during a long drive or a quiet moment at work, he's the one who left an emotional mark on him. She said something, or perhaps even nothing at all, but the way she said it, the energy in her voice, the softness behind her strength, made him feel something. That's where the game changes. Words don't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes the most simple, seemingly casual expressions carry the greatest impact. A soft "I get it" at the right moment, a whispered "I see you", a gentle, confident "that's why I chose you". These aren't declarations. They're experiences, and when a man receives words like that, when they come from a woman who knows herself, who speaks with grounded grace, he's struck by something he rarely feels in this world: emotional clarity. In that moment, he isn't thinking about what she looks like, what she does for a living, or what she's trying to get from him. He's simply caught in the ripple effect of her energy, pure, emotionally intelligent, calm. And it lingers because it's not about her trying to get into his head. It's about her effortlessly entering his emotional memory. You see, the feminine doesn't need to chase. When she understands her emotional power, her voice alone becomes magnetic. And when she couples that voice with words that reflect deep emotional intelligence, she becomes the kind of woman a man remembers in silence, the kind he misses when he doesn't even know why, the kind he daydreams about when there's no obvious reason. And that's the paradox of emotional imprint. It isn't loud, it's not overly expressive, it doesn't demand attention. Instead, it invites it. It whispers and he leans in, it pauses and he waits, it disappears, and he begins to chase it. So many women think being unforgettable is about being constantly present in a man's life, about frequent messages, long calls, grand gestures. But what they don't realize is that presence means nothing if there's no emotional depth behind it. What truly stays with a man is not how much time you spent in his day, but how deeply one sentence, one look, one shared truth pierced his emotional armor. That is what makes him think about you all day. It's not about being perfect. It's not about knowing the exact right thing to say at all times. It's about saying something real, something emotionally honest, something that touches the part of him he hides from the world. Because the man who seems emotionally unavailable on the surface is often the man most desperate to be seen in his quiet places. And if you can offer him that, not in a way that demands a reaction, but in a way that leaves him wondering, reflecting, craving, then you've already won. You've already become the imprint that no other voice can replace. You've become the standard by which he measures connection, the voice he searches for, even when he's surrounded by noise. So speak not to impress, but to connect. Let your words be rooted in your self-worth, not in your desire for approval. Speak from your feminine calm, not your anxious need to be chosen. And when you do, your words will echo, not just in the moment, but long after. Not just in his mind, but in the part of him he doesn't even understand, because that is how you make him think about you all day. There's something subtle, almost invisible, that creates a lasting imprint on a man's mind, and it's the difference between being needed and being desired. Most people confuse the two, but they couldn't be more different. Needing someone often stems from a place of absence, of fear, of survival, but desiring someone, that's a conscious choice, that's emotional gravity. That's the feeling that sticks long after the moment has passed. That's what a man remembers. You see, men are used to being needed. They're needed for their strength, their support, their problem solving. They've been told they need to provide, protect, fix, and so, over time, they learn to show up in that role, sometimes without question, even without emotional connection. But being needed doesn't make a man feel alive. It doesn't make him feel seen. It just makes him feel useful, and usefulness is replaceable. What isn't replaceable is the feeling of being wanted, desired, crave, not for what he can give, but for who he is. For the soul behind the structure, for the fire behind the logic, for the man, not just the mask. When a woman looks at him and sees the parts of him the world overlooks, his doubt, his softness, his depth, something powerful happens. He relaxes, he stops performing, he lets go, because finally someone isn't trying to extract from him. She's not trying to fix him, use him, or lean on him. She's simply drawn to him, and that's when he starts to feel something that every man secretly longs for, value beyond utility. It's magnetic, it's rare, and it's unforgettable. There's a moment that changes everything in a connection. A moment when a man looks at you differently because of how you make him feel in your presence. Not because you flatter him, not because you rely on him, but because your energy tells him, I want you, not because I need you, but because I choose you. And men remember that. They remember the woman who didn't try to bind him through obligation or emotional debt. They remember the woman who simply radiated calm confidence, who didn't chase validation, who didn't perform. She just was, and her desire was not born of lack. It was born of abundance. Her words weren't coated in desperation. They were soaked in certainty, and when she touched him, whether through a word, a look, or the way she said his name, he felt it. He didn't just hear, I want you. He experienced it in her voice, her eyes, her energy. That's the kind of desire that haunts a man in the best way. That's what makes him check his phone for no reason. That's what makes him scroll back through old messages. That's what makes him look around a room and suddenly remember the way her hand brushed his. And when he's alone, when the noise is gone and the world is quiet, that is the woman who shows up in his thoughts, because desire speaks a language far more powerful than need. Need creates pressure. Desire creates tension. Need says, I can't live without you. Desire says, I'm fully alive, and I want to share that with you. And that makes all the difference. You see, you can need someone and not respect them. You can need someone and still be numb to them. But when you truly desire someone, you feel alive in their presence. You want to know them. You want to give, not just receive. You become curious, you lean in, and men crave to be leaned into, not as providers. Not as problem solvers, but as men, as humans, as emotional beings who rarely get asked, how do you feel right now? Or what do you need, not from the world, but from yourself? So when a woman brings that kind of emotional awareness, that level of salty soul curiosity, a man remembers her. Because it's not just about being adored, it's about being felt, and that kind of feeling can't be manufactured, it can't be copied, it can't be replaced. So if you want to linger in his mind long after the moment ends, let your desire for him be felt, not forced. Don't love from lack, love from presence. Don't need him to complete your world. Want him because you're already whole, and when you look at him, don't see his role, see his soul, because that's what he will crave. That's what will echo. That's what he'll remember when he's in a room full of people and suddenly feels alone. You won't be the loudest voice, you'll be the truest one, and that's what makes you unforgettable. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's what you awaken. In a world saturated with noise where texts are rapid, fire, attention spans are short, and people are addicted to constant validation. It's the woman who speaks with intention that disrupts everything. She doesn't just send a message, she creates a pause. She doesn't just start a conversation, she opens a portal to something deeper, and all of that can begin with just 3 words, not I love you, not I need you, not even I miss you. Those have their time and place. But the 3 words that truly stir curiosity, mystery, and emotional attachment are the ones that pull him inward. They don't tell him what you feel, they invite him into a feeling of discovery. That's what the masculine craves more than constant emotional downloading, the opportunity to explore you, uncover layers, chase meaning. It's not about trickery, it's about invitation, and the most powerful invitation begins when a woman uses her words to say less, while meaning more. Imagine sending a message at a random hour, not dramatic, not needy, just soft, sincere, and laced with something he can't quite place, something that stirs something in him, something that makes him pause and tilt his head and wonder what you meant. That's when you begin to own emotional space in his world. Because here's the truth. The male mind becomes obsessed with what it can't fully figure out. It locks onto things that hint without revealing. It is captivated by women who say something emotionally meaningful without spoon, feeding the entire story. You don't need to give everything. You just need to give enough for him to want to lean in. The right 3 words aren't about control. They're about connection. They give him a feeling, a mystery, a thread he wants to follow. And when used from a place of calm confidence, they become emotional fingerprints on his soul. So what are these 3 words? They change. Depending on your energy, your story, your bond. Sometimes it's I felt you. That's not about drama. It's not demanding a reply, but he'll think about it. Felt me? When? How? He'll replay your last moment. He'll try to decode it because you didn't say I missed you or I thought of you. You said something visceral, something spiritual, something intimate, and now you live in his head. Sometimes it's you get me. Said at the right time, maybe after a deep moment or even a light one. It stops him in his tracks. You've just acknowledged that you see him, that there's a bond, that he reached you. And because men rarely feel emotionally successful in relationships, those 3 words light him up inside. He remembers you for that. Sometimes it's I see you, not in a performance-driven way, but softly, after he reveals a fear, or laughs too hard at something stupid, or gets quiet. Those 3 words make a man feel felt. And men are starving to be felt, not evaluated, not fixed, but felt. When you say that without needing anything back, he feels safe with you, and safety births attachment. See the pattern. The words only work when they're rooted in real emotion. And when they're spoken from a place of overflow, not over-neediness, you can't say, I see you, just to get him to say something back. You say it because you do see him, and that's enough, and that's what makes it addictive. Men, remember the women who created emotional anchors in their mind, and those anchors are forged through language that's intimate, simple, and personal. When you say something that nobody else would think to say, you become the woman nobody else could replace. It's never about trying to be mysterious. The most mysterious women are the ones most connected to their own emotions, their own hearts, their own presence. They're not trying to generate attention. They are the attention, because when they speak, it's not to fill silence. It's to touch something real. And when you know how to touch something real in him, you begin to live in places of his soul he didn't even know were empty. So say the 3 words, but don't say them from pressure. Say them from presence, not as a trick, but as a truth, a moment of emotional generosity. Then step back. Let the energy breathe. He'll come closer. Not because you asked him to, but because something in him can't stay away. That's the difference between attraction and obsession. That's the power of emotionally intelligent language. That's how a man thinks about you all day, not because you're yelling for space in his life, but because you left him wondering how he ever felt full before you spoke. It's never just about the words. It's about the state you're in when you say them. You could have the most beautiful message, the most perfect phrase, the exact emotional key to his heart. But if it's coming from a place of need, fear, or emotional chaos, it won't land. In fact, it may even push him away. Because energy doesn't lie, words carry a frequency, and a man can feel whether your voice is full of confidence or full of quiet panic. Most women don't realize this. They think if they just say the right thing, he'll respond. That he'll open up, that he'll see their value, but the truth is, what makes him lean in isn't the script, it's the soul behind the script. It's the woman who's speaking from a place of emotional fullness, not empty desperation. That's what pulls him, that's what haunts him, that's what makes a simple phrase echo in his mind long after he hears it. Before you say anything, before you send that message, before you whisper those 3 words, you need to ask yourself one thing: what emotional state am I in right now? If you're anxious, pause. If you're trying to get a reaction, pause. If you're feeling unloved and trying to reclaim power through words, pause, because when you're in that place, your words aren't love. They're a call for rescue, they're a cry disguised as connection, and even if he responds, it won't be from attraction, it'll be from guilt or confusion. That's not what you want. That's not power. That's not intimacy. That's survival mode in disguise. Now, picture something different. You take a breath, you sit in silence, you come back to yourself, you remember that you are enough. Whether he replies or not, whether he stays or not, whether he sees it or doesn't. You remember that your words aren't bait, they're gifts, they're offerings, they're pieces of your emotional truth that you choose to share, not to get something back, but to express who you are. That's the state where your power lives. That's the state where your words become magnetic. When you're grounded in your emotional worth, your energy shifts. You stop chasing responses. You stop performing. You speak like someone who knows her impact, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. And when a man feels that, he doesn't run, he listens, he leans in, not just to your words, but to your energy. He doesn't remember the message you sent at 2 a.m. from a place of loneliness. He remembers the moment you looked him in the eye and, with calm conviction, said something that reflected your emotional strength, something simple, something real, something he couldn't shake because it came from a woman who didn't need him to complete her, just to witness her. And witnessing a woman in that emotional state, it changes a man, it softens him, it humbles him. It makes him crave more than just your body or your attention. It makes him crave your presence, the way it feels when you walk into a room with peace in your spirit and love that isn't tied to outcome. There's something hauntingly irresistible about a woman who knows how to feel deeply without falling apart. A woman who can say, "I see you," and mean it, not because she's clinging, but because she's centered, because her seeing him isn't about validation. It's about connection. It's about sharing something real in a world full of performance. And when you speak from that place, your words don't just pass through him. They leave something behind. They create emotional residue. They make him pause during the middle of his day and think, what was it about her voice? What was that feeling? Because you weren't just communicating. You were transmitting presence, so the next time you're about to say those 3 words, whatever they are, ask yourself, am I speaking from fear or from fullness? Am I trying to get something from him, or am I offering something of myself? If it's fear, wait, heal first, anchor yourself, let your emotions pass through. Don't let the storm speak on your behalf, but if it's fullness, speak softly, clearly from your heart, from that sacred place inside you that doesn't need to chase because it already knows it's enough. That's when the words land, that's when they echo, that's when you don't have to wonder if he's thinking about you, because he is. He doesn't even know why, he just feels you. Your energy, your truth, your calm power. And that is the kind of voice a man never forgets. Sometimes the most powerful bond is the one you never see coming, the one that isn't built on loud declarations or dramatic intensity, but on something softer. Slower, deeper, something that lives between the words, a connection that isn't defined by constant presence, but by emotional precision, and that precision, those subtle messages wrapped in softness and strength, is what creates obsession. Not the unhealthy kind rooted in fear or insecurity, but the kind that lives quietly in a man's heart, that follows him into his solitude, that visits him in his thoughts when he least expects it. It's in the tone of your voice when you say his name. It's in the look you give when you listen to him speak, like you're hearing more than just his words. It's in the way you allow silence to exist without needing to fill it. These are not loud gestures. These are not planned tactics. These are the elements of emotional intimacy most people overlook. But it's this unseen bond that leaves a man unable to forget you. Men don't obsess over what they can predict. They obsess over what moves them, quietly, steadily, soulfully. And the truth is, when a woman knows how to speak with depth, when she doesn't just talk but touches, she becomes the woman who enters his emotional bloodstream. Not because she tried to impress him, but because she understood him, and understanding is rare. It's what men crave beneath the armor. You can be stunning, you can be kind, but what makes a man obsess over you is the way you made him feel about himself when he was with you. Not just admired, not just wanted, but felt. He remembers the way your words landed in his chest, the way your energy calmed his chaos, the way your voice became the one he longed to hear even after the conversation ended. That kind of power doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from feeling more. It comes from emotional awareness, from choosing your words not to manipulate but to mirror, not to fix him but to reflect him. The subtle language you use, the gentle affirmations, the light teasing laced with warmth, the soft acknowledgments of his inner world, these things go places that even he can't explain. You might say something as simple as "you don't have to carry it all," and suddenly he's silent. Because no one's ever said that to him, or maybe it's "you looked so at peace just now," and he'll carry that moment with him. Why? Because it's not generic, it's personal, it's present. And it touches something beyond logic. It touches the boy inside the man who has always wanted to feel chosen without conditions. The most magnetic women know how to live in this energy. They don't rush. They don't force. They create emotional moments, and each moment leaves a mark. One word here, one knowing look there, a playful phrase, a meaningful pause. These aren't tricks. They are reminders that she's operating from a different frequency. One where depth is everything, one where words are sacred, and that's why he can't shake her, because she didn't just text him, she moved him, she didn't just flatter him, she made him see himself, she didn't just give him attention. She gave him presence, a full-bodied awareness that said, "I'm here, I see who you are underneath everything, and I'm not afraid of it." That kind of emotional safety becomes addictive. Men may not talk about it. They may even deny it, but when they feel emotionally safe with a woman, when her words don't pressure but instead invite, they begin to crave her energy in a way that feels like home. They begin to wonder where she learned to speak like that. To listen like that, to understand without demanding, that's the difference between being liked and being longed for. So speak softly but mean it. Say the thing no one else sees. Don't try to fix him. Reflect him. Use your emotional intelligence not as a way to decode him, but to create a bridge that allows him to meet you where he's never been met before. That's when the obsession begins, quietly, slowly. He starts thinking about you in the middle of unrelated things. Your voice becomes background music to his routine. Your energy becomes a scent he can't forget. He doesn't even realize he's spiraling into your orbit until he already has. And it wasn't because you begged, chased, or proved yourself. It was because you spoke in a way no one else ever dared to. You spoke to the part of him he thought was invisible, and now he can't look away. So here you are standing at the intersection between intention and emotional power. You now understand that words, when spoken from the right place, don't just land in someone's ears. They echo in their soul. The truth is, if you want to be unforgettable to him, you don't need to scream for his attention, overgive your love, or prove your worth. You simply need to speak into the part of him that most of the world ignores, his emotional center. Men don't fall for what's obvious, they fall for what feels rare. And in a world full of noise, distraction, and shallow gestures, the woman who understands the subtle emotional codes becomes unforgettable. You become the pause in his chaos, the moment he replays, the soft voice he wants to return to. Those 3 words you now carry, they aren't magic spells, they don't manipulate or control. What they do is something far more powerful. They awaken a desire in him to connect, to chase, to understand you, and to keep you in his emotional orbit. They plant a seed of longing, not because you begged for his attention, but because you whispered to the part of him that craves depth more than performance. But remember, saying the right words without the right energy is like writing poetry on glass. It might look beautiful for a moment, but it won't last. It's not just what you say, but how you feel when you say it, the softness in your voice, the pause between your sentences, the groundedness in your knowing. That's what makes him take a deep breath after your message and say to himself, what is it about her? Because what truly makes a woman unforgettable is not how often she texts or how available she is. It's the way she touches a man's spirit in one moment of quiet vulnerability, that one moment when she's not trying to impress or convince, but when she's being fully her, calm, whole, emotionally fluent. So if you want him to think about you all day, give him something worth remembering, not in the form of pressure or expectation, but in the form of presence. Be the experience that makes him pause, be the moment he replays in his head. Be the sentence that lingers in his heart, and when you say those 3 words, say them with certainty, say them not because you want to control the outcome, but because they are a reflection of how empowered you've become in your own emotional world. Because the woman who understands the emotional blueprint of masculine psychology doesn't chase, she attracts, she speaks, and he listens, she whispers, and he leans in, and by the time he realizes what's happening, he's already thinking about you. Not because you told him to, but because something in him never wants to stop. Now you hold the power, use it wisely, speak it gently, and let the right man fall, not for your words, but for the woman who had the courage to speak them.